some kind of a make or break game for Praggnanandhaa and his opponent Vidit Gujrathi. They both are trailing the leaders, Praggnanandhaa by half a point, Vidit by 1 full point, and whoever wins this will most likely join the leaders, and whoever loses would have very little chances. There you have Praggnanandhaa, who shakes hands with the chief guest of the day. He is the CFO of Scotiabank, one of the big banks here, and the chief arbiter is basically asking Pragg if the chief guest should make just about any move on the board, or should he make the move that Pragg wants to play. And Pragg says, I want to play e4, and that's nice of Pragg to reveal his first move. Sometimes players just tell the chief guest, you can make any move that you would like to, then they take back that move and then they make their first move because they don't want to reveal what they want to play. But Pragg has come prepared. He wants to play 1 e4. Adjusting his pieces there is Pragg, and he has been in good form here after his loss to Gukesh in the second round. He has been unbeaten after that and has played solid chess to reach 5 points out of 9. And Vidit comes in and he shakes hands with the chief guest there. It's an all-Indian clash, and it's very interesting that the chief guest is also Indian, so there's a lot of Indian touch there. Vidit, of course, is going to get into his meditative zone there. There you have it. Even if there are people around him, even if there is noise around him, Vidit has reached this stage where it has become such a part of his routine of the game. He adjusts his pieces. He has black against Pragg. If you remember, he lost his game to Pragg in the third round, where Praggnanandhaa played this outrageous opening with f5 in the Ruy Lopez. Today Vidit will have the black pieces and we'll see how this goes. The players shake hands and it's going to be very, very exciting. Also in the frame, the chief arbiter, we mentioned the CFO of Scotiabank. We also have Hari Raghavan there, who is a well-known personality in the Canadian chess circles. And there you have the first move is made, 1 e4.
Thank you very much.
And with this we are ready to kick off the game. Pragg presses the clock after e4 and off we go. Vidit takes some time before making his first move here, as always engrossed in his meditation, and now writes down the move e4. Let's see what his response is going to be. That will determine the flow of the game. Does he go for the Sicilian, something else? Well, he considers right now is not the time to go all out, and he plays e5, which is his main repertoire move, which is the move with which he beat Hikaru Nakamura as well. e4, e5. Knight comes out to f3, attacking the pawn in the center. And Vidit brings his knight out to c6. Now Pragg goes for the Ruy Lopez with bishop b5. Actually, Pragg is one of the big exponents of the Italian. I'm a bit surprised that he goes for the Ruy Lopez because Vidit has the Berlin. There you have it. He plays knight to f6, attacking the pawn, and Berlin is very, very solid. So in a way, Pragg is ready to face Vidit's Berlin with his anti-Berlin with the move d3. And he would have some new ideas up his sleeve for sure. And with it, now you want to play d6 to protect the pawn, but the bishop is passive on f8 if you push the pawn. So therefore you first bring it out of the pawn chain with the tactical justification that after take, there is queen d4. By the way, Pragg goes for the move here, take anyway. Vidit takes it back, and now you don't take this pawn. That's a blunder because of queen d4, a double attack. So Pragg plays queen e2, and with this move he's defended this and now threatening to take the e5 pawn. Also Vidit plays knight d7 after 5 minutes. So a typical maneuver here, the knight generally goes from f8 to e6 later, or c5 to e6, and Pragg goes bishop e3, offering a trade of bishops. Now if you take here this position, then after queen e3, white is slightly better. One of the things is that black's compensation for the pawn structure is the bishop pair, and trading on e3 was not good. Now if you trade here as white, then knight takes c5, and we spoke about this after f6, knight e6, knight d4 or knight f4. Black gets the knight on a good square. So Pragg goes knight to c3, and Vidit now brings his bishop back. Very interesting decision made by him, keeping the bishop on the board. And generally when the bishop is here, you want to play the knight d2, knight c4 maneuver, and that's exactly what is done. Knight to d2 played. Knight jumps to c5, planning to come to e6, and the knight comes to c4. Now the knight has pressure on d6 and e5 points, and Vidit has to decide what is his idea. He goes knight e6, and the queen comes to d2. So I like how Vidit has maneuvered his knight from g8 to f6 to d7 to c5 to e6, and now plays the very solid move f6. Pragg now takes on d6. Very simple, very straightforward. You can take with the queen. You can also straighten up your pawns with c takes d6. Vidit prefers to take with the queen, because now he has control over the d4 square. You will see that these are all small decisions, but these are very important and interesting ones. Like, I would say many people would want to straighten out their pawn structure with cd6, but Vidit sees the advantage of taking with the queen. Now b6. The bishop will be well placed here, and then maybe he can go long castle or short castle. f4 played. Very logical move. You want to push forward. If you get f5, you would be very happy as white. So takes. And with it now, Pragg now can take back with his bishop or knight. Both are possible. He takes back with the knight. And if you think about this position, if you take, white would have a small initiative because is slightly ahead in development. So c5 played here by Vidit, and he says, if you want to take, I'll take back. If you want to jump in with the knight here, by all means do it. I'll attack you. So Pragg goes queen to f2. Interesting. Vidit can now short castle, but he first plays his bishop to b7. And now knight takes knight. Somewhere one does get the feeling that white should be slightly better here. The reason for it is because the pawn structure is now in white's favor. However, the opposite colored bishops, dark square for white, light square for black, does make the position kind of equalish, drawish here. It'll be interesting to see what Vidit does next. He long castles here. Very cool. He puts his king on c8. He's not afraid that there is going to be any attack on it, because a4 can be simply met with a5. Praggnanandhaa decides to go on the other side of the board. He short castles. If white can get queen f5, trades, rook takes f5, it could be something. And that's the reason why Vidit simply moves his king away. And he says that if you put your queen here, I can prevent the trade of queens. So that's why king d8 played. Now rook a e1, bringing the rook to the center of the board. 52 minutes for Vidit, 48 for Praggnanandhaa. Rook h f8 played. Just useful move. Maybe in future you want to go g6 f5, maybe, not so sure. Pragg goes queen f5, an important moment because it does Vidit take here. So after takes, rook takes. I always feel that white has these pawns coming forward. Vidit plays this very smart move, queen d6. If you take the pawn, then I have rook h8, and then there is attack on the h2 point. So that's the reason why you can't take it. He plays queen back to h3. And now pawn to h6. The difficulty for white is that he cannot easily push his pawns on the king side and make a pawn break. So in a way, although his structure is good, the bishop c8 played, attacking the queen. The queen has to be moved now. Queen g3. I think this move, queen g3, is kind of a draw for there, I feel, by Pragg. Vidit takes, pawn takes. And now because the pawn structure is mangled, you will never get g4, g5. If your pawn was here, you could have pushed h4, g4, g5, but now it's not possible. So bishop comes out to e6. And Pragg plays his pawn to a4. Vidit can also push his pawn to a5, which is what he does. Stops the white pawn from coming forward. We have some kind of a formation here, like a V shape. Bishop d2 played. No, one could clearly imagine that if the bishop could sit here and the pawns could start hurling, that would have been cool. But rook e8 played by Vidit. 29 minutes for Vidit, 26 for Pragg. In a way, it's been a good time management by Vidit here in this game, because in all the games he had been low on time than his opponent, but here he's playing faster. Rook d7. I don't think any of the player is very keen on making any progress here with his pawns. Rook comes to f4. The best you can do is push your pawn to g4. That's all. Apart from that, nothing much. So king b7 played by Vidit. Plays his king up to f2. And now rook e7. Pawn to g4. Maybe a small chance here to create some chaos is at some point to play g5 when you lose this pawn but can win g4. But I don't think Vidit will go for it, mainly because after g5 he not only loses f6 but also h6 becomes weak. So bishop goes back to d7. And now rook a1. He plays his bishop to e6. I think Vidit has kind of found his moves that he wants to play. He wants to keep moving his bishop. Pragg goes forward with his king. And now Vidit brings his bishop back. We are on move 33. I guess there is some rule which says you cannot draw before move 40. So he goes back to f2. Sometimes in such positions, if you are careless, there could be some opportunity that could come your way, and that could be picked up. But for the time being, it doesn't seem anything spectacular is happening. Bishop d7 played. Pragg brings his rook to e2. Maybe he can try for e5. Is that the plan? That's something to try for, perhaps. Vidit brings his king up to c6, and now let's imagine e5, pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, bishop takes, attacks here, g6, and this should be fine. So Pragg doesn't go for any of that. He goes rook f2. Vidit comes and decides to bring his king back to b7. And finally, they seem to have found the magical formation where they can repeat. The rook comes back to e2. Vidit brings his king back up. Rook goes to f2. King will go back. Vidit is saying something there. I think he wants to call the arbiter, saying that, oh, it's a threefold repetition already. He says, I'm going to play king b7. And he makes his move and claims for a threefold repetition. And Pragg is smiling. Vidit is smiling. Arbiter has come in there. And they have said it's a draw. It's a threefold repetition, a draw. I would say that this entire game, Vidit couldn't be very happy with what has happened. Let's hear what they are speaking.